Chapter 5. The dark side is strong, Skywalker. Someone told me today something that almost shocked me. Not quite, but almost shocked me, more because of the person that was speaking than from anything else. You see, this was a person who stood in front of a room full of people and professed their trust in a supreme being for the guidance of their life. They said to me, "Yes, I believe that God has a plan. I believe that He has a plan for me." And then, a few short seconds later, said, "I believe that I've got to make a stand and say what I want in my life, and that's what God wants for me." Do you see what I heard there? Well, what I heard was a psychosis in action. I heard, God's in charge of my life, I'm in charge of my life. Which is true? Both? Neither? I just can't say for sure because of a little thing called free will. Just exactly what does that mean for me? Well, I've been listening all my life. I didn't always know I was listening, but I was. I hear things tell me that I have the power, and then I've heard life telling me that I don't. What do? Do I commit myself utterly to the control and care of something I've never really seen? A power that I can only guess exists? That's a tough call, and one I hesitate to make so often that it amazes me. Maybe I should tell you a little story about someone. It might be me, it might be you. It might, in fact, be half the people in the world today. It is a story about a pain-filled life. Long ago, in a land much like the one in which we are living now, there was a little boy. He was like a lot of other little boys as he grew, curious and often troublesome as he explored and learned the world around him. He learned to walk slowly, not quite getting the feel of the earth beneath his feet, stumbling and wobbling his way into life. He would wobble as his mother smiled and would fall to the sounds of his father's laughter. He knew that he would learn to move like the big people around him if he had enough time. But the laughter of his father made him feel like he was just not smart enough to ever do it well. So he took quite a while to learn this difficult chore, made all the more difficult by the sounds his father made at his little failures. Now, Mom would be patient when Dad wasn't there. She would hold him carefully by his little arms, almost carrying him from place to place, always letting his legs get just a little stronger with each passing day. The attempts to earn his father's pleasure just stopped happening. Often he'd think to himself, "One day I will walk as good as Daddy. I will walk right up to him and he'll give me that big smile that Mama gives me. And I'll know then that he loves me too, even if I'm not as good as my brothers. Then he won't laugh at me anymore." Then one day when his dad came home, the little boy, having practiced all day making the journey from the coffee table to his mother kneeling in the doorway, decided to show his father just how much he'd learned. He grabbed the coffee table, stood up from the floor, and walked toward the doorway where his father stood, just watching. He could see the smile he'd been waiting for begin to come out of his father's face as he made first one step, then two. His little legs were so very tired, but he'd make it this time, he knew. As he made his fourth step, then his fifth, he was so close to his daddy's leg now that he started to laugh on his own. He was almost there. Then, as he reached out for his father, looking up into his face with that smile of love, his daddy's leg moved. Not looking, his little hand reached out to where his father's leg should be, and found nothing. As he spun in a little circle to the ground beneath his father's laughter, he began to cry. Yeah, life can be harsh. The boy's father, having as much sensitivity as a slug and being about as caring, thought only that what he did was funny. He laughed, probably having been taught that by his father, at the struggles of a lesser being. It probably did bring him some measure of joy, and his mother may even have smiled, her judgment impaired by a little too much bourbon or Valium or something. As the boy grew, he never really learned about caring, or family, or the value of love. He never did learn these things because for every accomplishment he shared with his mother, his father showed him how little it meant. Every hurdle overcome, his father made greater. Every joy he diminished. Slowly, but with all the certainty of the tides, he grew up shallow and scared. He grew up into a man still a child in the ways of life, and so he suffered greatly, never really understanding that joy could mean more than just impending sorrow, and that success meant that failure was soon to follow. So then, where are you now? Are you filled with a certain sorrow, a sadness for the child that never learned the things you hold so dear? Perhaps you're understanding in the way that only a soul who shared such suffering can. In any event, you feel a kinship to the boy who would never be a man. He would never be a man, for a man knows life. But is this life? Let's look a little deeper, a little further down the road before we decide that one, because if you've ever planted a garden, you know what manure smells like. Let's turn once again to my old friend Webster for a reminder of one aspect of the definition of life. It is that which causes growth or development. Most certainly he will grow, as must we all. So therefore the actions of his father are not relevant here. The actions of the father are merely actions. They create other actions, but the growth will happen regardless. His father's actions will merely dictate the direction his life, his learning will take. That is, until he can decide for himself. Isn't it about time for you? Song of the Flute. A promise has been made to me, and I have faith that a promise is to be fulfilled in this place. It has been a long, a hard journey, as it has been for you. One person on the road to peace, one person seeking truth. One person now exploring, one person passing by. One person recognizing truth in another person's eyes. I can see the doubt in you, and it's all right, for I know it's just remembering the times it wasn't right. The mysteries that you had sought and thought that you had found turned out to be infertile seed, cast upon the ground and scattered. Now what matters is that you recognize the voice that always speaks the truth to you when you have a choice. So stop one moment, if you will, and let the voice speak out. Let it grow in power until there is no doubt, for therein lies the knowledge that I cannot relate. Therein lies your answers and your fate. Hi everybody, my name is Ron Hatton, and I am the author of A Book of Life. Now, since day one, when I finished making the book, I studied about bookbinding techniques. It was always too expensive for me to have a publisher do it for me. So what I did was decide to make my own, and the result is this. Now, this is a hand-bound copy, ribbon, paper, all of that folded by hand. And if you should like to have a copy of this for yourself or for someone you love, then all you have to do is email me at gadgetman@gadgetmangroove.com. Just watch the slide. The email address is coming. God bless y'all richly and warmly, and as always, remember to smile for a stranger today. You will both be glad you did. Bye-bye.